Okay, then, and it appears that we are live for the latest episode of the World Metal Congress live stream. I'm Alexander Milas, and I'm just going to bring in our co-founder, Lina, Khatib, who is joining us from Beirut. Lina, how are you doing? Are you receiving? Okay, then, and it appears that we are live. Are you there? Just going to make sure that you're unmuted, and we'll be able to begin. Okay, how is your audio there? Are you hearing me? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, welcome to the show. We have a really interesting lineup of guests joining us today, Lina. And I have to say, I'm so excited about this because in many ways, this is the fullest expression of what World Metal Congress is all about, because it really is not just bringing together worlds, but also time zones live. It's our first time doing this, and so I'm really excited. So I wondered if you could just walk us through who is joining us today, and well, where they're based and where they're from.
Yeah, I mean, hi everyone who's watching. I'm Lina Khatib from the World Metal Congress, and I am in Beirut right now in Lebanon, and you're watching us live. It's exciting to be able to do this and have guests who are joining us from Lebanon. We have JP Haddad from the iconic Lebanese metal band Kimaera, which celebrates its 20th anniversary this year. We also have Anthony from Kaoteon and Death Tribe. A lot of people in Lebanon know Kaoteon as another illustrious band that has been around for almost also 2 decades. And Anthony will be joining us from the Netherlands, where he is now based. And last but not least, we've got no other than Roddy, the drumming maestro, who is joining us from Florida. So we've got US, Netherlands, Lebanon, UK on the line, and it's just going to be fantastic.
Indeed. Well, Lina, if I could just put you on the spot one more time. We brought all these magnificent musicians together and all that, but a lot of people are joining us today might not know what the World Metal Congress is about, and I suppose it's not a bad idea to introduce ourselves as well, where we fit in and why we're doing this.
Absolutely. I mean, my own involvement in the metal scene goes way back to my teen years growing up in Lebanon, which is why this episode tonight is so special to me personally. I was in a metal band in Lebanon in the mid-90s and witnessed Lebanon emerge from civil war to becoming a country where lots of creative people wanted to express themselves. And here we are with the World Metal Congress trying to shed light on scenes like that in the world that maybe not everyone necessarily knows a lot about, but certainly where there is a lot of talent in need of being discovered and promoted and encouraged and supported. So maybe, Alex, you can talk about what we do in the World Metal Congress to get the word out. But for me, it's just a pleasure to be able to connect global metal musicians through our platform. Obviously, we started our project live last year with an event in London that brought people together face to face. Here we are now bringing them together virtually.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's the best possible summary of what WMC is all about, and I suppose Lina, you and I met through the metal scene. My background, I was at Metal Hammer for some time. I worked for Kerrang, and it always startled me just how rich and diverse the metal scene really was. When you get beyond simply just one or two geographical areas, you discover that not only is there an incredible international community, but there are also many issues that aren't always addressed really well and all that. And so I think this isn't just about traveling around the world, but also exploring a lot of issues that I think 50, or I guess going on 51 years from the first Black Sabbath record, if you take that as like the sort of ground zero for what this music is all about, how it gets to the next 50 years, is all about, how we carry it through, which is why we want to invite people from all over the world. And we can actually see people watching from all over the world as well. London, Germany, Israel, LA, a few familiar faces, a few new ones. But for now, I think it's probably time for us to bring our guests in. one by one. And as it is live, everyone bears with us while we connect to audio and do all the other stuff. Okay, here we go. We've got Derek, JP, and Anthony all joining at the same time from all over the world. As they connect to audio, let me know if you're receiving. JP, you're first. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you well. Hi.
Fantastic. All right. How you doing? All right, Derek. I think you're joining us from Florida. Can you hear me? Okay.
I got you loud and clear, babe.
All right. Very good. And Anthony, I think you're last. Are you receiving?
Yes, I am.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this is what an extraordinary gathering of people from all over the world to talk about a really exciting thing, metal in Lebanon. So I'm going to start with the most obvious question. How do you feel, JP, when people express surprise that there is a metal scene in Lebanon? Is there really a metal scene in Lebanon? Should be my first question. Go on and let me have it, okay?
Actually, the Lebanese metal scene existed since the 90s, and it's not something new at all. And yes, a lot of people are still being surprised when they hear about there's metal in Lebanon, because it's a very underground scene, and you don't see that on international media. And most of the bands were just local bands. They've never tried to do anything to go on international level or try to get out there. So most of the time, people are surprised. We got used to it. But I think bit by bit now they're discovering that no, we have very good bands. We have a good metal scene. Despite of everything that is going on, the scene survived. The scene survived oppression. It survived war. It survived a lot of things. But we're still here, and I think we're here to stay. And now the Lebanese bands are getting the chance to go on a more international level and to perform on stages and big festivals outside. So yeah, we have a good metal scene right here.
Indeed. Well, going back to the 90s, it's quite some time. And Lina, I suppose I should hand over to you, because of course you were there to witness it from the very beginning, because you've been a part of its fabric from that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me feel so old now, Alex, because I was in a metal band in Lebanon in 1995. So I'm from that generation with lots of hair dye to pretend not to have come from the 90s. I have to say, it was a really vibrant scene back then. The country had just emerged from civil war, but we were undeterred. And Lebanon has been through much over the years, but people remain undeterred. Like, despite all the problems that the country has faced, political, security, economic, people still kind of, and that's the spirit of metal. It's the spirit of just being defiant and just kind of finding any opportunity to play music and keep going. And one of the things, obviously, about our guests tonight is that they represent 3 dimensions of the Lebanese metal scene. I mean, you have JP, the survivor in the local scene, 20 years, going strong still, looking amazing, with a great sound, a great band. You have Anthony, now part of the Lebanese diaspora, where, as I am. I mean, I'm based in London, usually. And, again, keeping the spirit going. And, Derek, I mean, hey, you've been embraced by the metal scene in Lebanon as one of us. And it's just really interesting to hear why. So maybe that's not why from our side, why from your side. Like, how on earth did you get involved, Derek? Like, what brought you to Lebanon?
Well, I've always wanted to come to Lebanon just because of my heritage and my family. My great-grandfather was from Lebanon, and it's just something that's been in the back of my mind. And the first time I came was with Nader, Sadek. So that was a big part of being able to get there the first time. And I was blown away by, man, the resilience of the Lebanese people and just the amount of commerce, and everybody had something positive to say, and it made me reflect on my own country in a different way, because I look at Americans that are in the same type of situation, let's say, like that Beirut and Lebanon has been through before, and like they don't have a pass, because if the Lebanese people were able to pull themselves up out of the ashes that everything the country has been through, going back as far as time is written, especially that whole area, nobody else in the world has an excuse to allow this to happen. So I just find it amazing, just the resilience of the Lebanese people, and it just really attracted me to everything Lebanese. It made me want to dig further into my own history, and it's a beautiful place, and I'm definitely pro Lebanon.
Indeed. Well, I have to ask there, Derek. I mean, because it's a really interesting juxtaposition. Because, of course, you're in a unique position where I mean, you weren't just born there. I mean, you saw it with unique eyes. So what did your first visit there do to shatter your preconceptions? What did you expect, but what did you actually find?
I mean, I've been a lot of places in the world, so I wasn't necessarily expecting anything. I guess I was expecting it to be like any other place, in the back of my mind. But I was blown away at how, I don't know how to say it, maybe westernized Beirut specifically is and has become, I guess, and that surprised me a little bit. It didn't feel like what I thought it would feel like. So it's hard to explain, I guess. I don't know. I felt very at home there. Yeah. I didn't feel like I was in, Lebanon. I don't know. Magic. It's almost magical, even, and I try to express that to people all the time. Like, man, you have no idea. Like, if I tell people bypass Europe altogether, no offense, Europe, I love Europe, but I said, if you're going on vacation, bypass Europe altogether and go to Lebanon. I like it that much, and feel connected to it that much.
Indeed. Well, I mean, this is the thing that's absolutely fascinating. And if I could just sort of, use that as a jumping off point with Anthony. I mean, I'll be honest, we have people watching from all over the world, more joining Chicago, Finland, and so on. And, I've got to say, for people that aren't aware of, the metal scene there, I'll say when a lot of people hear the word Lebanon, the first thing they think of is not necessarily heavy metal scene, and all that. So what's it actually like? Is there a genuine sense of community and connection between the bands and all that? I mean, look at this group of people that we have on today.
I mean, it depends how you look at it. At the end, yes, there is a metal scene, and the Lebanese metal scene don't recognize that the metal scene in Lebanon is fucking awesome. And it is really about the crowd. There is still passion. They are eager and they are thirsty for metal, like the good old days. Whereas you go to Europe and you see like scattered fans here and there. If you shout in a metal concert, people will tell you, "Can you please stay? We're trying to watch the gig." And in Lebanon, it's all blood, sweat, and it's all rough and ugly, and I love it. But this is the problem, that the West doesn't know anything about the Lebanese metal scene, and the Lebanese don't have the means to reach the West, where metal is really big, and where there is actually funding for metal music. So they can't really put an album together, record it, make quality production. And then this leads to a split, and we need a connecting bridge. And Derek, first of all, I should stop for a moment and say, I've always been a fan. I shouldn't take it lightly that I'm with you here. So I'm humbly say, keep the horns up. Thanks a lot for helping out Khavar and bringing out the word about the Lebanese metal scene. This is amazing. And thank you, Alex. Thank you, Lina. And really, it's and this is it. You guys are the connecting bridge. And this is how, hopefully, we will get the Lebanese metal heard of elsewhere. And this is what JP and Kimaera, or even Kaoteon, and now I'm trying to do the same with Death Tribe or other bands that are trying to put the name out there. And going through these media channels, we don't make money out of this music. We're just trying really to put a message, and metal still is with a purpose from this side of the world. It has a message. So I hope that this would keep the new generation motivated so that they are heard, because there's ample of music that is already buried. And if you start digging, you will enjoy a lot of amazing riffs.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, Derek, I mean, for those watching who may not know, I mean, Derek is not just someone who came to Lebanon as a guest and kind of left. You also perform and have recorded with a local band in Lebanon, which Anthony just mentioned, Khavar. So how did you get involved with that band? And tell us more about that band, especially that you guys have a new release.
Yeah, so I guess when Nader was there the first time, Garo, who was working at Instruments Garage at the time, he bailed us out on some gear and a couple of things that kind of needed to be ironed out with the show. And he just kind of stepped in, and I thought to myself, wow, here's a cool dude, you know, whatever. So we started talking a little bit before the show. I had gone and done a clinic at Instruments Garage the day of the show, like earlier that day. And we just started talking, and he told me he played guitar, told me about his band Willow. And for some reason or another, it seemed like I was familiar with that already somehow. I don't know how I would have known about it, but anyway, long story short, we just started communicating, and I told him, I was like, man, you know, he said he hadn't jammed in a while, hadn't really played. I was like, dude, man, you got to get back playing. Like, send me some riffs. I'll throw some drums on it. Who cares? Like, even if it's just you and I, whatever. And one thing led to another, and now all of a sudden we have a release out, in Absence of Light. And yeah, there's a bunch of like cool collection of songs. Excuse me. A little bit different, you know, than a lot of the Western kind of popular extreme metal right now. So it sits kind of in a different place. So I'm interested myself to see how it gets, you know, accepted and perceived worldwide. It'll be neat to follow the next year or two.
I think it's as Anthony said, it can only help build bridges. Having, you know, someone like yourself be genuinely committed to being part of the scene, and this is something that obviously lots of people appreciate. And here I want to turn to JP. Speaking of being connected in the scene, you guys, Kimaera, were the first Lebanese metal band to tour abroad. So the natural question is, what did people say when they saw, oh my God, it's the first time we see a band from Lebanon performing in Europe? What was the reaction like?
It's for them, you know, Lebanese bands are always something exotic that they're not used to. A lot of people didn't even know that there's a country called Lebanon existed. So they were like, "Yo, you were from Libya?" Or like, "No, it's Lebanon. It exists," you know. And so actually, it was the best experience ever we've had, because, you know, like, we were living the dream. This is what every metalhead would dream about, you know, to tour, to you know, spend time on the road, go to places you've never been to before. And actually, it's surprisingly enough that we had people who already knew the band, who already had the merchandise, who already had our CDs before. And it was such a pleasure, like, to go to places that you haven't even heard of. Like when we toured Russia, for example, we went to this place called in Smolensk, I think, and there was a bunch of you know, like these big Russian guys, you know, tall Russian guys, big beards, and they were just standing outside, you know, and looking at us in a weird way when we arrived. Like oh fuck, this is not gonna end up well, you know. So when we went in, they just came backstage and they had the CDs, our CDs with them. They turned out to be fans, and we were actually more surprised than they were to see us there. So, but this gives us like a lot of pleasure, because I know that all the hard work we put, all the setbacks we've had, at least we're getting some sort of recognition at some point. So it didn't all go to waste. and people will still be surprised, I think, when they hear about Lebanese metal. But as Anthony said, like, you guys are doing a good job now building bridges between us and the international scene, and this is what we have been trying to do at least for the past 14 years for us. I wouldn't say 20. So yeah, and I wanna just give a shout out to Garo from Weeping Willow, and now Khavar. This guy has been in the metal scene for as long as I can remember, and now he has a family, but he is still doing this. He has a great passion for metal music. He's still doing music, producing music, and I just want to say hi, and I love this guy a lot, and I respect this guy a lot.
Yeah, and he's online on YouTube in the chat, so shout
He's
out to
everywhere. Garo is everywhere.
Indeed. Well, and obviously we'd encourage everyone who might be watching wherever you are to join in the discussion. You know, we welcome your comments and questions. You know, this is a round table, and you know, and we have a few ourselves. I mean, JP, I mean, to follow up on that, you know, I mean, you know, even more recently, I mean, it seems that you joined the national discourse in Lebanon and internationally. Tell us the story of Ya Beirut. What did that mean as a poem? What did you do with it? And what did it spark? Because it seems to have gotten quite a reaction indeed.
Yeah. Ya Beirut is a national song. It was released back in the late 80s. We had civil war, and we had another war going for 2 years. And when this song came out, I was just young, around 6, 7 years old, I think. And it had so much, like it takes you on a emotional roller coaster. It had everything. It talks about the love of for your country, for your capital, about all the mishaps that happened to it, all the bad stuff that happened, the war, and how it always managed to rise again. And you know, and it has also the aggressive part. So it was in a way, it was the perfect song to be rearranged, because it had all the elements that we love to work with. I don't like to just keep going straight, the same rhythm, the same thing from beginning to end. It has all these ups and downs, and I thought 7 years ago it was the perfect song to rearrange. I've always loved the song. I've always appreciated it. So I talked to the guys about doing it, but back then we had just released an album, our third album, and it took us a lot of time to work again on the new album, because we were traveling, and financially we weren't ready. We were busy, like a lot of things happened. So a year ago, when the crisis happened in Lebanon and the corona also happened, you know, like everywhere else, we thought it's about time to start working on the new album. Let's take advantage. We're not doing anything, basically. Most of the jobs stopped at that point. So let's take advantage and finish the album. And I've always had in mind to release this song as a single. So by the time we rearranged it, we needed someone to sing the song. So when we approached Cheryl and talked to her, it was actually, the meeting with Cheryl was the same day the explosion happened at 7 p.m. And just 1 hour earlier, the explosion happened, and we had to reschedule the meeting for the day after. And with everything that's happened, we thought, no, let's take this a step forward and just do a full-on music video, because there was a lot of mixed feelings with everyone. There was feelings of anger. There was feeling of disappointments. There was the city we grew up in, we were born in, we were raised in, just was shattered in less than a minute. And despite, you know, all the things happening in the background, the political stuff, the corruption, it's an endless story. So we were like, no, it would be a good chance to do something that would actually mean something to people, that they would relate to. And this song was perfect. So I'm not going to go much into the whole problems that happened. All I can tell you is that we got a a gentleman's agreement, if I can say, with the original artist, because look, we worked on this for almost a year. We're not going to just release it without at least getting the okay from the original artist, and we did. But after we released it, it went viral, and there was growling in it, and this is not something that your typical Lebanese guy or woman would accept. It's not something. It's a different culture that not a lot of people would actually understand. And people fear what they don't understand. And they see people wearing black, singing like this in a national anthem. It's a song that everyone knows. It's a classic in the Arab world, not just in Beirut. They didn't take it lightly. Let me say that. So and it was also broadcast on TV. One of the TVs called us and they said, we're interested in putting this on TV. We're like, okay, do it. Just don't politicize it, because it's not political. It's a national song. Just play it randomly like you play any other song. And this is what happened. And this is what also stirred the other crowd more, to see someone growling and playing metal and wearing black and doing headbanging on a local TV. This was something unprecedented. This had never happened before. So we stirred this, but we were still happy we did that, because we can safely say that metal has been played on TV now, on local TV. Now people know, even the Lebanese know, that we have metal bands here. And even, let me say, roughly 60% of the people who love the song have nothing to do with metal. We just introduced them to what metal is, to what death metal is, to what growling is that you can take an Arabic song and actually rearrange it and do something really beautiful out of it. So now a lot of people are interested in metal as well. Mm. And most of the feedbacks that we got were extremely positive, extremely positive. But you can't make a change in one day or one night. Change will take time. Yeah. But at least we took the first step. And I think we're on the right way. When you see people are open-minded enough to accept this, most of them, of course, it means that we have a chance. I think there's hope.
Absolutely. I mean, JP, I can also certify, whenever I've sent the song to my friends who have nothing to do with metal, they all get goosebumps when they listen to it. It's really very touching. The way you've done it is just, absolutely. You don't have to be a metalhead to really feel it, and it's just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. This was, just let me say one thing. One of the reasons as well that we decided to do this song is to introduce people to death metal, people who don't know anything about metal and about death metal, especially the Lebanese death metal, is to introduce them to that. And I think we succeeded in doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of influences, Anthony, you're a very versatile guy when it comes to musical influences and what inspires you and the way you create. So you've just heard what JP talked about in terms of connecting with something very local and transforming it, which is in this instance the iconic song Ya Beirut. Can you talk to us about Kaoteon? That's also fantastic death metal. I personally, as you know, I'm a huge fan, regardless of whether I know you or not. I remember watching Kaoteon live for the first time and feeling mesmerized and feeling like I just have to stand here and like worship this stage. And so talk to me about inspiration. What is local about Kaoteon? Because this is, as JP said, when it comes to death metal in particular in Lebanon, it's not something that's part of the traditional culture. But at the same time, there is something in the music that connects. What would you say that is?
I mean, Kaoteon has been there for quite some time as well. You're talking about the same era of Kimaera and Weeping Willow, and we have passed through all these stages of oppression and suppression. So that is what we have in common, more or less. And I wouldn't pinpoint one thing. You cannot deny that we have been influenced by a snowball of chaotic events that this is why basically I named the band chaotic aeon, which is because we are living in Lebanon and this chaotic situation is never ending. But if I would go for the sound, I tried as much as possible to keep it a bit in the background, this Orient feel without letting it go, but not really playing that card because I felt like, okay, it needs to stand out and have a sound of its own. However, as well, like I had, of course, the longest member other than me in the band was Walid Wolflast. And we always tried in the lyrics to that he wrote, and we talked about the concept up till now, that to touch on such subjects, especially in the first album where we were going out. I mean, Lebanon has so much history. I don't want to keep talking for hours, but we had the bombings, we had the Lebanese-Israeli war, we had other kind of terrorist attacks, we had different kind of economic crises. So we were always touching upon those in the first album, but something within us as well, and I can talk to myself more than anyone that is not in this room, we decided to as well cleanse ourselves from this. So this is where we might be different, or I would say could be different than other bands that are still really connected to trying to change the rot from within, whereas really showing that there is opportunity to let go of this really infested roots that it's a cancer that we don't have a cure for yet. And we're trying to live above it and try to have like a cleansing ourselves from what could have been influencing us through the years and try to really come clean with ourselves first. And this is our way of shouting out and letting off the steam by just, it's our meditation, if I may say. I know it's heavy, I know it's extreme, but even in whether Kaoteon or Death Tribe, I touch upon the topics, but in a way where, okay, what the hell is going on? Why are we still stuck in the same rut for over and over and over and over due to politics, religion, social political issues? We don't want to get into those details, of course, but the influence is fueling me with disgust rather than being inspired to be more proud. I am proud to be Lebanese, but I'm not proud of the Lebanese, of what they have done, of this beautiful land and beautiful history and beautiful immense amount of resource and history. I mean, the only thing I could tell to my countrymen if I was standing in front of them is shame on us first. And then, of course, there is a revolution, but then you see it happening over and over and over. And who am I talking from the Netherlands, right? But I have been there, I stood there, I tried to change. I stood next to JP in many areas. We were in revolutions, we were beaten, we were taken to jails. But then you decide, okay, I have to look up for my own. So all of this has influenced us in one way or the other. To cut it short, it is very, it hurts deep down, but we are trying to change our blood by refueling ourselves with what should have been the right Lebanon, give the right image to Lebanon, speak rightly of things, and not getting lost in this game of fools, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. And Anthony, I mean, amongst all Lebanese metal musicians, I have to say, you with your projects have gotten more media coverage abroad than anyone else in the scene. And I know you worked very hard to make that happen. So a quick question to you. When people approach you to talk about your experience, is there like a framework that you kind of kept coming across again and again and again in terms of how people were perceiving you as a musician, as a band?
Yes and no. There is the framework of the Lebanese and the framework of outside. So it's totally different. For Lebanon, because they have the passion and they love metal to the bone, I had some questions like, why don't you look metal? I mean, what does looking metal mean, you know? Like, but
having hair like Derek.
yeah, or tattooed all over, or all
like
that
JP.
stuff. Yeah. I have a lot of tattoos, but they're hidden. You get to see them in the bedroom. But it's all about. I mean, I try to just do it with a discipline. I have equal amount of responsibilities to everyone else in the metal scene in Lebanon. I have a day job. So is there a framework? Yes, discipline, perseverance, making sure that you know what you want to get out of it, making sure that you reinvest everything that you do into the music to outdo yourself as best as you can. And my advice to everyone that is trying to do it, and there are lots of talents that we dream to have access to what they have today in Lebanon, bands that are coming out today. I saw like recently, I don't want to say the wrong name, but I think Fanemy made a music video recently that of which the quality is freaking awesome. And they have access to music instruments and all that stuff. Although Lebanon is struggling, but we still get access to these kind of things, and they're doing quality music. So perseverance, and understand what you want. Try to kick out your ego out of the room as much as possible, although sometimes it's hard, especially when you are engulfed in your own country. I had some ego. I had to let go of it when I came out. Because you act stupid when you are in a small scene and all that stuff. We used to fight over whose band is what and all that stupid stuff. Who will be the headlining band at Cherries in Jalid instead of just playing live and making sure that we share our instruments and make collective quality music. So yeah, I hope that I answered your question, but this is my take on it.
So this is the Lebanese framework. Derek, you are one of few people, if not the only person, who has performed with a band project from Egypt and a band project from Lebanon, and you've been to both places. So talk to me. I mean, not many people see things from your perspective. So now you've heard the trials and tribulations, of JP and Anthony. Right. How do things look like? And is there a difference between Lebanon and Egypt? Because a lot of people might say, oh, it's the Middle East, it's all the same, and there's oppression everywhere. But,
That's what I would have thought. Like I said, but with the first time I came, of course, at that point in time, I hadn't been to Egypt either. So I went to Lebanon first. So I actually thought like Cairo would be more like Lebanon or more like Beirut, but it's not. Egypt is kind of what I imagined Egypt would be, if that makes sense. Beautiful place, beautiful people, but it's so massive. That's one thing that's like vastly different about it. The size of Cairo is just mind-boggling as far as the amount of people, population density, and in such a small area. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, I think that, like I said earlier, I think Lebanon has more of a Western feel to it, as far as what I've experienced, like say, for instance, in Greece or even like Paris, for example. That's gotten more of a European Mediterranean feel, whereas Egypt really, to me, felt like a Middle Eastern country,
Okay, and what about the metal side of things?
Well, no, okay, so that's interesting because, as JP and Anthony have already said, the metal scene in Beirut specifically is very good, and there's an underground culture for it. And I understand, because I don't know like so much about the Lebanese history, but I know that at some point in time, it wasn't necessarily a safe thing to do. I think more now, as JP and Anthony also said, it's a little more accepted. In Beirut and in Egypt, not so much. It's still very much a dangerous thing to do there, to be involved with the imagery, the lyrical content, the art. Everything about it is not really it's pretty frowned upon in Egypt. So I think that will be another like major kind of difference between. So really, the metal people there, they're much more afraid of like social gatherings, for example. When I was there with Nader, they were going to do like was it an AC/DC or it was some type of appreciation for some type of rock band? I don't remember, Scorpions or Judas Priest, maybe something. And Nader expected a bunch of people to come up, but to show up because they were going to take pictures of each fan and put it in the local paper. Nobody showed up. The people straight up told him that they were scared to be photographed and have their picture put somewhere associated with metal music or rock music. So it's very different in that aspect, I think, and very unfortunate, really. I mean, but it's like anything else, you know, once I think the internet really has been like the sole catapult that's changed everything the world over, and it's allowed more access, and it's also allowed more understanding of what metal music is or the underground scene, or, you know, there's a lot more access to it now. So I think even a place like Egypt is being really affected by that, and there's not really too much that can be done about the outside influence now. I mean, you could be like China, you know, for example, and limit your internet users, you know, to what they're actually seeing and listening to and hearing. But it's not like that in Egypt. You know, it's still like internet's kind of a luxury there, I would imagine, you know, outside of having it on your phone and using data, you know. So it's very different in that regard. You know, Egypt is very like set further back in time than Lebanon, I feel, as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, which honestly leads me to, you know, again, shout out to all our Egyptian, you know, colleagues in music for, you know, keeping things going despite all these difficulties. And at the same time, hey guys, in the Lebanese metal scene, it's not as bad as, you know, as other places it seems. But that's the thing, because, you know, people outside might be too scared to come to Lebanon or think that, you know, the infrastructure is non-existent. And as we're hearing, you know, people have access to instruments. Here we are broadcasting live on the internet from Lebanon. So, I mean, so we encourage people basically to take a chance. Don't we, Alex?
Indeed. Well, I mean, I guess this is one of the things that every experience is unique, but one theme that is consistent across so many people that we've spoken to since the beginning of World Metal Congress and all the sort of precedents for it, is that it's a powerful reminder, I think, especially to people in the West, that in many places in the world, playing metal can have severe social and political consequences, looking a certain way. And that's something that can sometimes be taken for granted, in places where it's just a little more acceptable, where it's gone from inspiring a moral panic to becoming just, another fashion choice, or whatever else. But, something I'm really fascinated by, and this is definitely a theme that isn't repeated, is, what is the history of metal in Lebanon? What is ground zero? Because, of course, in the UK, where I am, for instance, it's always accepted that, Black Sabbath, that was the very beginning and all that. But, if the Lebanese metal scene began in the 80s, Anthony, JP, I mean, what was the first big band? Who kind of shook the tree first and, created the genesis of all this? Because we always get different answers depending on what part of the world we're talking to. So who broke there first, and who inspired this generation of musicians afterward?
You mean international bands? I think it all started mainly with, as far as I remember, I think I've heard of a couple of Lebanese local bands that used to play like Deep Purple stuff and Led Zeppelin stuff, I think in the 80s. And then it just kept going from there. And 90s, I think with the whole, I remember, I got into the metal scene here around mid-90s. So I think there was mostly bands that used to do doom metal back then, because 90s was I think the best era for doom metal. And as for Lebanese bands, I honestly can't remember much. I remember bands like Dogma or Valhalla or bands like that. As for international bands that everyone used to play for here, it was also mostly like Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden, Metallica. You know, like
The usual suspects, it sounds
the
like.
usual suspects. Yeah, that's it.
But if you remember quite like old times, I think if we go back, there was a band called Exceed. Which,
Exceed as well. They used
yeah.
to play, I think, heavy metal or something like that.
Yeah, they used to play heavy metal. They had the originals. You can find it online. They have a hell of an amazing, one of my favorite clean heavy metal vocalists ever.
Haitham.
Haitham Khatib. Yeah, there was Alex and the band, if you remember, singing Epitaph every Sunday,
Every Friday.
Crimson in La Cité. And there were so many bands playing heavy metal yeah, but when it came to the fast to speed thrash and black and death metal, it all started in the 90s and onward. So we started on the extreme spectrum before any really, like, there was Exceed and Alex band, and then there was doom metal, death metal, and all these bands, and then you had one band as well with Sammy and Elias and James. What was the name of the band? Yeah, so it wasn't anything that went super big, but I would say we have the same influences as the West. So I was listening to Black Sabbath, and I was listening to Metallica and Slayer and Carcass and all at the same time. So yeah.
Well, so it's funny because if I could just follow up there, somebody in the chat said the mid 90s. I was 4 years old.
Oh, that's your bandmate, Serpents, JP.
This is my bandmate. He's the keyboardist and the producer in the band.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to delete him from the chat because he's just made me feel like I'm 1,000 years old. But but if we could,
I feel the same all the time with my band. Like I'm the oldest one, so there's like an entire decade difference between me and him. So it's fine.
You're doing well. You're doing well. But this is the thing. It's important, I think, for the youngsters who are watching to remember that there was a point where the internet was not really a thing. How did you get metal in Lebanon in 1995? I mean, was it tape trading? Was there an underground network? Because getting metal presented a massively practical problem to every kid, before a certain year. So how did you do it there? Where did you go?
We had separate scenes. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Go.
we had separate scenes. So I would say there was the north, although Lebanon is too small, but there was the north with Tripoli. There was the south with Tyre and Sidon, and then you had Beirut. And basically, every single part of them had a little discotheque somewhere. In Beirut, I remember going to one famous DJ today who plays in Netherlands as well, and he played BO18. It's a famous bomb shelter in Lebanon, and he has his own original music. I'm trying to remember his name, Fadi. I slipped his name, but there was Discorama in Burj Hamoud, where you would go and get copy tapes with all the titles written on dactylo. I don't know, a typewriter. Yeah, a typewriter, and with the stamp of Discorama on the tape. And then I remember I got my first black metal tape and my first doom metal, and I got to know My Dying Bride and all these classics. But I think when it went viral, it was during MIRC. We had chat rooms, and most of the nicknames of Lebanese bands and people are still from those days. So my nickname was Chaos God. I still use it up to this day. And there were so many people in that chat room. I forgot the name now, but it's freaking fantastic memories. And once MIRC died or people stopped using it, everybody knew everyone because the metal scene was so small, and then we started hanging out in places. So we went to first the people that are as old as I am, they remember Cecine in front of Shrimpy, which was
Abraj as well. Abraj, don't forget
a
Abraj.
QSR chain, a QSR chain for shrimps. And then we moved all together to Abraj, which was another location, but then we were chased out of it by the authorities. And then we moved to Dunkin' Donuts. And then so it was always this movement of community moving from one place to the other. So it was fantastic. But yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating to me. And, you know, to paraphrase Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park, you know, metal finds a way. And so, you know, I ask, going back to Derek, you know, you're unique in so many ways because you've had an incredibly diverse and rich career, but also you've straddled worlds, you know, because of what you've seen and the scenes that you've been in. Do you think musicians outside of Lebanon have something to learn from, you know, from that scene? Because obviously it faces certain, you know, challenges, you know, that are unique, that aren't shared, and perhaps there are things that are taken for granted, especially in the West, you know, where you know, maybe we have things just a little less challenging sometimes. Do we have something to learn from that scene?
Yeah, I mean, I think really more that the Western scene could learn from Lebanon. You know, it's just resilience. And a lot of people in the West have a tendency just to give up. You know what I mean? And or the follow through skills, for example, like you get to a certain point. Like, I don't know how many bands that started a recording and haven't finished it. You know, like that kind of stuff. It just seems like the Lebanese people specifically are just driven to follow through and to see things happen. And I feel like that's something that definitely the Western scene could learn from. Another thing is voicings. I mean, it just doesn't go for like Lebanon specifically, but more of, you know, the Middle East part of the world is like, there's one thing I really enjoy about playing with Garo and the guys at Khavar music. It's just the note selection. It's very atypical of what Western bands do, you know, and I like that they're not trying to follow the trend to sound more like, you know, a Western band. I like the fact that they're writing true to form. And I listen to some stuff when I first get it, and it's like I think to myself, wow, that's so odd, and like I never would have like gone there, you know, because I play and I write, thinking to myself, I never would have done that, you know, and I think that's another thing that just Lebanon specifically is the best chance that the Middle East has to get the message of different types, different ways of playing. You know, we're seeing that in the Western culture now with guitar players, with guys from India. Because the guys from India have this very specific way of voicing, and you see more and more Western world adapting, you know, these types of voicings. And, you know, that's something that I think that's really big in, you know, the Lebanese scene that could be adapted more in the world context, for sure.
Well, I mean, that's really interesting, because I mean, I've said it before in different conversations, but, you know, metal is almost like a science fiction concept musically, because it's like an alien life form that, you know, it's almost like genetically it can fuse to almost any other style of music and create, you know, something new and unique. And I want to, you know, JP and Anthony, I mean, just like swinging it back to you and so on. I mean, you know, in terms of your influences outside of, you know, heavy metal and so on, I mean, I'm just curious, you know, how you've been, you know, able to perhaps fuse styles, you know, just like what else you grew up with just as kids before your metal, and just, you know, just what you might have brought into what you create now.
Is it
either of you?
Yeah, so I'll take this one.
Please.
It's like JP's Frozen.
I thought the question was for the question was for Derek. I didn't know it was for me.
Yeah, same here.
My apologies.
That's okay.
I'll start really short. I think even like I started listening to metal really early. I have to give the credit to my uncle, who introduced me to Discorama, by the way, and he had a lot of tapes, and I always asked him, where did you get these from? So it goes even older than me, but I still listen, and I always listen to other types of music, and I would say I am interested in discovering multiple styles. I have been a big fan of anything that is progressive rock, and if I'm calling it correctly, I'm not big on genres, but I used to listen when I was younger. I remember to a lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of Eloy, a lot of Yes, a lot of Rush, and then I used to listen as well to a lot of King Crimson and Van der Graaf and all these stuff, but it was always an eclectic style, because during the same time period, I was listening to the Nirvanas and all the grunge scene. Being born in '83, I was like in my teenage years when this movement was on. I still have Metal Hammer from the 1990s in my parents' house in Lebanon, and on the cover there was like this new band Sepultura giving the thumb for Slayer, and I was like, who the fuck is Sepultura? And I went and I purchased it, and I had my lyrics book. I used to write the lyrics by hand and download. I was lucky because I had a guy who had a printer, so I used to print out anything I could find from the internet after I have connected on the internet, like, and then you connect it, and then the picture goes down line by line, and then I would print it, and that would be something. I take it and I show my friends that I have a poster of Max Cavalera, and we discuss new music. So it was always all around. I still, till today, I'm super interested to discover cultural music from different countries and different styles. So yeah, I can't pinpoint one. That's for me. I give the someone else, Derek maybe, or JP.
JP?
Yeah, I think also it's close to what Anthony said. It started with my uncles making me listen to Pink Floyd. They used to put the video VHS of The Wall, and would like, just sit down and watch this. This is good music. This is real music. So this is how it started. But when I started growing up, I listened to different kind of music. Like early 90s and mid 90s, there was I think it was still I think it was the best time for music in every possible genre. For me, 90s are the shit, because I grew up listening to that music, and my guilty pleasure will always be the Bee Gees. I still think they're one of the best bands that ever existed, and I will always love them. These guys are fucking geniuses. And then someone made me listen to Painkiller, just like this, from Bee Gees to the Painkiller to Judas Priest. I was like, this is what I want to listen to from now on.
This is Bee Gees with distortion.
Close. So yeah, it started with Judas Priest and Metallica, actually. I didn't go through the phase that everyone goes through, like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, and then you just work your way up. I didn't go through that. I just went from the Bee Gees to directly Rob Halford, and James Hetfield, and it just kept going from there. And then I was introduced to doom metal after a couple of years, and I thought, this is what I want to do, and just kept exploring. But I still listen to the Bee Gees till now.
Well, they're local to me. They're down in Miami, about 40-minute drive.
Really?
Bee Gees. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, there's only one, like,
yeah, it's only one left.
Passed away.
Yeah. Funny.
Well, I've got to admit, there are many things that I thought we might talk about tonight. I did not expect the Bee Gees, but that's what I always love about these conversations, is you never know, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I guess throwing it to Lina for a second. I mean, Lina, does it ever cease to surprise you just how pervasive the ability of metal is to just sort of reach every time zone, every part of the world, and all that? It's startling because it really gets everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, when we had our inaugural World Metal Congress event, last year in 2019. I emailed bands from around the world to see if we could feature one band from every country, just to show our audience that metal exists in as many countries as possible. And we managed to get music from 80 bands from 80 countries. And I think that is quite something. You know, even small obscure places, you'll probably find a metal musician somewhere, you know, kind of riffing away, even on their own. It's just, you know, one of those genres that I think connects with people all over the world. And the other issue is it's an attitude. I mean, as you can see, I mean, you guys, especially, you know, JP and Anthony, I mean, survivors, you know, despite everything, still kind of doing this. And Derek, you know, again, all the talent you talked about, I'm sure you've, you know, come across amazing musicians, especially from the new generation in Lebanon, which is very inspiring, and it keeps probably you going as well to kind of see, you know, new talent. And this is, you know, what metal is about. We're all having a good time at the end of the day. We're enjoying this genre. At the same time, we're all committed, and this is just fantastic. And I think the Lebanese metal scene is one of many in which there is a lot of talent. Perhaps the world out there doesn't know enough about it, but it should. And here we have to mention Anthony, for example, with Kaoteon winning Metal Hammer's Global Metal Award, which is absolutely amazing. So there is talent in this country. People should check it out. Of course, right now it's a bit difficult to perform live anywhere in the world, but hopefully when the coronavirus situation is over, we will hopefully see live performances in Lebanon again. And Derek, you can come back.
Yeah.
And Anthony,
hey,
as
I want to touch on something. I want to touch on something too. I think that the one thing that metal music has in common the world over, okay, is, and it's just something so simple, right? But we have a tendency to look over it. But metal music will always be popular because teenagers, no matter where you live, always want to piss off their parents. You know what I mean? Like, so, and there's really only a couple of styles of music you can do that with, metal and rap, which is why metal and rap, if you look at the numbers on Spotify, are the two most streamed styles of music. Because your metal is in the demographic of people that actually do that type of thing, streaming, and they just want to piss their parents off. And that's the world over, you know? So metal music will never die just because of that very reason.
Well,
you know, I mean,
I'm going to submit that there are two reasons. One of them we also talked about. There's that reason, and there's also cool uncles and indeed aunts, you know, who played Pink Floyd to their nieces and nephews, you know, and change things. You know, guys, look, I mean, we're only just beginning the conversation, and it's really my hope that we can begin to, grow what World Metal Congress is doing with people from all over the world, and you guys have been a really wonderful, you know, part of that. You know, Anthony and JP and Derek, I wondered if we could sort of, you know, close just saying, people that are watching right now, what should they go and check out? What are you up to? What's next? Where can they find out more about what you guys do? Let's start with JP.
They can actually, we finished composing and recording our fourth album. Now it's in the mixing stage, and we're going to be releasing the album hopefully early next year. So if they want to keep up with our news and our new videos and updates, they can go to our YouTube or Facebook or Instagram under Kimaera Official. And I want to take this chance to thank you guys, Alex and Lina, for giving us this time to speak to the international scene and to the local scene. And I want to say also, I want to send my regards and my thank you to the amazing support that we got lately because of the song that we released. And we had this threat of filing a lawsuit against us because, you know, the whole copyright infringement issue. We had a lot of people showing a lot of great support, and I just want to say thank you again. And Derek, It's good to see you again. Hopefully next time it will be in Beirut. The last time we played live actually was with Khavar and Derek. Yeah, that was last year, I think.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Oh, you'll see me again. I'll be over. I'll be back.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, once this is over. And yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of projects going on right now. I'm finishing the album behind me, Death Tribe. It's the second album. It's a project that started on the side and then became a really interesting one, taking different, like it's an experiment where I'm allowing myself to play a different genre a bit than Kaoteon, which is black and death metal. And here I'm going more into groove metal and a mix between death and groove. And I added strings to the music. I worked with amazing musicians. I have Bard from the band Lepers on the drums. I have Linus Clausenitzer on the bass from Obscura. He recorded with me so far 5 albums, and just like Derek, he's very supportive. And I would like to mention one thing, and then I'll go back to the music, or maybe I finish that anyway. So I'm doing a full movie with Death Tribe as the album, and I played some scenes from it. It's a 35 minutes movie that I will hopefully release as a full stream with the music next year. It touches on several areas that we are facing today, from the virus to what happened in Black Lives Matter, but most importantly to the explosion and the corruption in Beirut. It is my message. It is influenced by Pink Floyd The Wall, of course, totally different, but it is there. I already finished 11 songs for the upcoming Kaoteon album. I have Adrian Erlandson, the legendary Swede, this is how I call him, from At the Gates, amazing personality, and Linus as well on bass. And I'm finishing a new single. I cannot announce the members, but I'm working with another bassist on some stuff. And I will release a 2-song EP as folk acoustic music. And it will be all in the first 2 quarters of 2021, hopefully, if I manage to get the traction and the right support, because making music costs a lot of money, especially if you're one man. But what I wanted to mention just quickly, maybe I take this opportunity to tell the Lebanese musicians that are listening out there that when I was there, I hope things have changed. We weren't really supporting one another to the bones and trying to come together, bring the community together, lend each other's instruments, help each other's in recording, put things out there. And when I look at Derek, I know that Derek is promoting Khavar like crazy. I have talks with people in the scene and they tell me, do you know Khavar? Derek told me about it. And I expect Gabo. Like I asked them, do you know Gabo? They said, no, we know Derek. And Derek, like, he's promoting the band, which is amazing. I reach out to fellow musicians that I play with, and they are super modest and humble and just there for the music. And it's really, they think that when they go to Europe or the US, it's much easier to make music. And trust me, it's not, because it's scattered. Members are thousands of kilometers away. You have to put the same, they have different kind of trouble and problems. Yes, there are access to labels, but there's so many bands. You have to push into the clutter. And you guys have something that is really rare. It's you have each other, and you can really help and support one another. If you find 5 members that can make a band and have this friendship factor and real the metal sweat, like Kimaera, which is freaking amazing that there is this band together. It is what is most important for you to keep doing it. And then everything will come together if you keep at it and not just release one album and then you want to be famous suddenly, or you want to headline every single concert. It doesn't work that way. Headlining, nobody looks at who's the first or last band. Of course, in big festivals, it makes something, but yeah, I hope I made my message clear.
Yes, but now you're producing alone more music than when you had a band, so it's working for you.
It is working for me, but it's not because I'm out or I'm in. I did most of the music when I was not in the Netherlands, and today I'm only releasing it, but it is working. It's not due to my location. It is due to I know how to do it better. I know how to plan it. I know how to reach out to people and just reach out to their how like as a business transaction most of the time, or a friendly transaction. You reach out, you have a conversation, it happens. It's not like a taboo. So it's amazing how people are willing to help, but we are blinded that we are in Lebanon and nobody will help us because of I don't know which reasons. So yes, getting a band signed into a label is hard, whether you are in Europe or you are in Lebanon. It might come with more hardship because you are in Lebanon, but that doesn't mean that you cannot make great music. This is the message I'm trying to put out there. And very few bands make it and make a lot of money out of it. And it's all about the passion. It's all about putting the discipline and making sure that you keep doing what you love to do best. If you really love to do it, you have to love it. Show me some love.
Very well said. And Derek, a final word.
Well, as we've talked about, the Khavar release, just we put it out ourselves. I was kind of encouraging the guys to let's do it ourselves, not try to pursue any kind of record label, anything. Because I mean, in today's climate with the internet, you can do a lot, yourself anyway. And we just kind of want to see how it grows. I dig it a lot. It's been one of my favorite things I've done in a while. But outside of that, Serpents Rise released a record, our fourth release, Interpersonal Violence, about 7 months ago now. And we're already probably halfway through having another one written, and probably we'll have that recorded by summer of next year. We're real productive because everybody's here. So we jam a few times a week, and especially since we've had all of this downtime, all we've been doing is writing and playing and rocking out. So that's been fun. Also, new Nader Sadek will be coming out in the next, hopefully, in the next 3 to 6 months. We're leaking material right now as we speak, a couple of different side project things we've had going on, but I'm looking forward to that. And otherwise, I mean, if anybody needs to reach out to me or connect, you can hit me at derekroddylive.com or serpentsrise.com. You can find me there as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to getting back to Beirut for sure.
Fantastic. And Lina?
Wow. I mean, it's been such a pleasure today, I have to say. And you guys took me on a trip down memory lane with the tapes and, the good old days when people would hang out in these random places. And the importance of just creating your own thing, don't rely on anyone to create things for you. I think that's the spirit that, as we heard even today, is still there. You want to release an album? Just do it. So yeah, what a pleasure to have everyone tonight. I mean, it's
thank you, guys.
Been fantastic.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your ideas, and for inspiring us as well. It's been fantastic to share this time with you. And we would ask everyone who is watching tonight to check us out at worldmetalcongress.org, subscribe to our YouTube, and indeed our newsletters. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Please stay in touch and let us know what's going on. We hope this is the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah, keep in touch, everybody. Please write me up, keep in touch. If you need my contacts, get it through Lina. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thanks
a lot, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. So, Lina, we're just going to put everyone into the waiting room as I lose my voice. It's just one of those. So, I don't take for granted that, this is not just say that there's ever any World Metal Congress thing, but an emotional one for you, perhaps, because it's one that you're so connected with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was really special. I I was there in Lebanon doing this kind of thing a bit before these guys. And it's just incredible because back then, like in '95, no way on earth would I have imagined in my wildest dreams that someone from Lebanon, from the metal scene, would be touring internationally like JP has done, or would win, the Global Metal Award from, in the Golden Gods like Anthony did, or that someone like Derek Roddy would come and hang out and basically become embedded in the scene in Lebanon. It's just really, really fantastic to see how far we've come, considering really it's a young scene in the general scheme of things. 25 years is not that long, in the history of metal. It's literally half as long as metal has been around for. So it's really inspiring to see where we are in Lebanon, and I'm very optimistic about the future.
I fully agree, and as we meet with and explore the stories of so many musicians from around the world, I think we always discover that we have things to learn from them as well. And today has definitely been an education for me. And I'm going to, well, among other things, listen to the Bee Gees with renewed interest. But thanks so much to everyone for watching. Lina, as ever, thank you so much for joining, and just being the genetic material for what World Metal Congress is all about. It's about bridging worlds, and I think we've done that tonight. So we'll have more webcasts soon. Do check us out, worldmetalcongress.org. Thanks everyone for joining, and Lina, we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. See you guys. Okay. Bye.